This is the future. This is the future.
Hello ladies and gentlemen, Green here and welcome to our video. In this one we're going to talk about how Raven and Beta Club have ruined the game. And this topic was requested by one of my members of Legendary tier, Cosmin Merluska. So as you know, I got like memberships, and for the $10 tier you can have one video request a month, and this was his, and that's what we're going to get into. And you might be like, but Sigvald, you're using Beta Club, you're using Raven, you made tons of videos with them. Yes, they are already in the game, and there's something that I enjoy using and I find it entertaining, and a lot of you guys have seemed to find it entertaining, judging by the views of the video, to watch in action. But that doesn't mean I necessarily agree with it. But if it's already added into the game and there's nothing I can do about it, why not profit off of it? But that doesn't mean I necessarily agree with their implementation into the game, and today we're going to talk about the impact that they had. We're going to start with a little bit of history about the Beta Club. The Beta Club was added with Red Script on artifacts, and at release Beta Club was able to one-shot tier 8 Scarecrow when put on a Catwoman. A few nerfs and a few fixes later, and the level 10 Beta Club can now easily one-shot tier 8 Scarecrow, and it has still, even though, remained one of the strongest artifacts in the game. And it has also remained a pay-to-win artifact. Quite pay-to-win. Why? You might ask. Because Azure artifacts. Those are the first artifacts ever introduced into the game. You could get them from League Rate drops. That was amazing. Ton of Apocalypse artifacts. You could get them from a chest and paid offers. Not great, not terrible. Rise of Cruton artifacts, you can pay to get them. That's how you get the Beta Club, by paying. And you might be like, but Sigvald, you can drop them from Soul Raid rewards. That is so rare, I'm not gonna take it into account. Across my two accounts, I have been collecting over 100 Soul Raid rewards. And I have gotten 3 so far. 3 Soul Raid specific artifacts. Rest were only Azure artifacts, and those 3 Soul Raid specific artifacts that I got were not particularly good artifacts or game-breaking artifacts. So getting it from Soul Raid rewards is gonna be so rare, and to so many people that's not gonna be relevant to the large majority of players. Now getting into the Raven subject, and we're going to see how all of them tie in together after we talk about Raven as well. She was released a few months ago, and besides being the most buggy character released so far until that point, yeah, then we got Deathstroke, who made the Raven release look at one of the best and well-put ones. But she quickly became the strongest character in the game. She could boost the crap out of any team that you wanted to use. League of Anarchy, Confluent Sakum, and Silver Banshee. She could pretty much do anything, and she was also the best damage dealer in the game herself, if being the best support character by far was not enough for her. Now combine that with the Beta Club, and the results were insane. Now let me get into the problem. So previous Raven and Beta Club, we've had some performances that you'd see, like League of Anarchy one-shotting phase 1 in tier 8, and Harbor Harley Quinn doing somewhere around 400 million damage in some Soul Raids with a maxed out build and maxed out artifacts. Now that we have Raven, you can one-shot anything in tier 8, and with Raven plus Confluent Sakum and plus Beta Club, you can one-shot all the way from tier 1 to tier 4. Boy, in Soul Raids now, we get 2 billion damage, and we've seen crazy amounts of damage, and it's getting to a point where the problem is the boss not having enough health for you to like deal damage throughout the entirety of the fight. And what's really the problem with that? Well, it's too strong compared to the previous things that we had. So far we had two huge power spikes in Injustice Immobile. We got the League of Anarchy rework, and when the League of Anarchy got reworked, they quickly skyrocketed to the top team for League Raids. Back then we only had League Raids, there was no Soul Raids. And they were able to do in some specific places, like up to 2 or 3 times the damage that's usually up to 2. Let's keep it up to 2 times the damage that usual teams were able to do there. Then we got the All Blades, kind of doubling at the very least the damage of all the teams in the game. So the League of Anarchy thing was not that big of a deal, because it was just like twice the damage of the most powerful team already in there, and they just topped off the tier nicely. Not too balanced, not too bad though. A lot of people complained that they were too powerful, but boy, things were gonna come in the next year that would make this power creep not mean anything. Then we get the All Blades, who, as I said, was doubling the damage, but the All Blades was an artifact, and it could double the damage of all the teams. And this these power spikes were not too big. There was still plenty of room for the other teams, despite the League of Anarchy being the best one. And at the same time, the All Blades, as I said, could benefit all the teams. Raven, even though as a support character, since she's so strong, she's a lot of times used as a standalone damage dealer. So rather than a lot of times adding variety, she straight up pushes the weakest team further down to the point where it's not usable anymore in Soul Raids. Beta Club, even though an artifact, despite the fact that it's not gonna be accessible to everybody in the game, and as we said, it's kind of hard and kind of pay to win to get it. Despite all those things, it's not gonna do well on every single team that you have. It's gonna do well on a number of teams. That's well for Camouflage Sakoman, for Raven, for Black Manta, for Batman Ninja team, and that's about it. And you get to the point where the teams that don't make good use of Beta Club are going to stay very far behind. Like right now in Soul Raids, for example, I got 4 teams that use the Beta Club, and I'm like, oh, and we have the Beta Club users, and then we have the bad characters on the other side, because the characters that don't use Beta Club, like, for example, let's say we got Silver Banshee, Multiverse, Justice League. Those guys are going to deal 1/4 of the damage compared to my other teams that make good use of Beta Club. So that really puts too high of a standards and creates too much distance between the teams. And this brings another problem. You can't possibly balance the content in the game in terms of those artifacts. And as we've seen in Soul Raids, Darkseid, for example, was a challenging boss. People had a rough time fighting Darkseid, but at the same time it was an interesting challenge. Now that they added the Beta Club, he can be one-shot by Raven plus Beta Club, and maybe plus League of Anarchy, or just without Beta Club, or Raven Beta Club without League of Anarchy, in the highest heroic difficulty, like one-shot it. Something that was the most threatening fight in the game, and the highest health and the highest difficulty you could aspire for, now it gets one-shotted. And at the same time, if you try to balance it, as we've seen them try to balance it against Boss Superman and Boss Raven, while you do balance it and you do nerf the capacities of it, you're doing friendly fire to the other teams. And you're doing friendly fire to the non-Beta Club users that were not dealing too high of a damage there in the first place. For example, let's say you have a Batman Ninja team that you want to use either against Raven or against Boss Superman, but you don't have a Beta Club. Your Batman Ninja team is not going to do anything there. That's because they're trying to balance the Beta Club. And you might be like, I don't have the Beta Club. Nobody cares. Those bosses are going to be heavily buffed so that the people who have Beta Club have a harder time one-shotting it. And this hurts every single team, regardless of if they make use of Beta Club, regardless of if they got a broken synergy with Raven, and regardless of a lot of things. So we got to situations where you either just don't care about it, and all you need is one team, and you one-shot the strongest boss in the game, or the situation where they try to balance it, but do a lot of damage to the teams that were already weak, especially to the League of Anarchy. Boy, the League of Anarchy did not have a good time against the Boss Superman and Boss Raven. So yeah, the game was not meant for such high mechanics, and trying to balance them after they have already added them is quite a bad thing. Now it's kind of too late to go back on things, and like you can't delete Raven and Beta Club from the game. People have paid money for it. And you can nerf it because, yet again, people have paid money for it. But overall, I'm not sure it was necessarily the best idea. Maybe they could have made Raven like mainly be a support and not deal a lot of damage herself, and be slightly toned down. Again, that's not saying that now she should get nerfed. Maybe the Beta Club should have been released in the state that it is now, rather than being released in a crazy broken state and then being gradually nerfed and bugged. But yeah, that was kind of it for this one, and this is how, in my opinion, Raven and Beta Club kind of ruined the game. And I'm not sure there's necessarily any going back on it. And I think, honestly, the way that they did with the last raid is kind of the best way to approach things. Just don't care about it. If people are gonna have a Beta Club plus Raven and they're gonna one-shot everything, it's fine. It's fine. Don't hinder the people who don't have access to those things in order to balance them. But yeah, that was for this one. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for Cosmin Merluska for the request to make this video, and I'll hopefully see you on the next one. Goodbye!
This is the future. This is the future.